I had the great opportunity to talk with a fascinating person who constantly talks with the most influential personalities in the blockchain industry. Today, he shared with us what he has learned from his career as Amazon best-selling author, as a podcaster, keynote speaker, founder, and builder himself. In moments of uncertainty, wisdom and experience are the foundations for building understanding. Without any further ado, Sam Kamani. Okay, thank you so much for joining. Today we have the possibility to talk with someone that is a fantastic profile in the Web3 space, and I'm sure if you stay with us in the following minutes, you will get a lot of value. Sam Kamani has been in this space for a long time, and he's a very interesting profile because he's a communicator in the space and a creator himself. So he has a very eclectic background, talking with a lot of people that is doing amazing things, but also he has the possibility to apply and canalize all of that information, creating. So it's a very interesting mix that usually we don't have in the space, being a creator himself, but also communicating. And to be honest, it's an inspiration for me. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much for being here. And yeah, feel free to introduce yourself and explain us and share with us a little bit of your career and what are you doing in this space and all your projects.
Yeah, sure. So, Tony, I'm really super excited to be on your show. Looking forward to having a conversation about everything that's going on in the market and the future of technology and future of crypto and blockchain and all that. So, before we get into it, I'll just give you a quick background about myself. Even though I got trained in computer science or as software engineer, I mostly did marketing for most of my career because I realized the importance of promoting and building a brand and creating a company, and that allowed me to build two small startups and sell them. So I've had two exits in past. I've been in this industry for ages, in 18 years. I'm in the tech startup industry. So my first exit was in a e-commerce brand that I built and I sold, and then the second one was in esports. I've worked in different parts of the world, in India, US, New Zealand, in different parts. And after that, I joined like an esports brand that we built and got acquired. And after that, I wrote books on tech startup. I spoke at events like TEDx type events and many more, nationally and internationally. And a year ago, I decided to jump full time into Web3. Even though I've kept an eye on what's happening in blockchain, I realized that, okay, what people are building is real. I mean, you take all the trading, crypto trading and all that out, and what's left is really real. What the developers are creating, the solutions that we'll all use in the back end and we won't even realize. So that inspired me to join this field full time. So I started my Web3 podcast and I started working with a DAO initially. And then in the last 3-4 months, I work for a startup that's based out of Los Angeles, California. And we have a platform called cookbook.dev. So it is a platform used by software developers to create smart contracts. So they don't have to write the whole smart contract from scratch. They can look at a template that already exists and then copy or make a like just changes to an existing and deploy it straight on chain. So that's what we do. We make building in Web3 way faster. So you want to create your own Thony Nava coin, you can do it in like 30 seconds. Or you want to create your own DAO, you want to do create any utility, you can do it in mere seconds instead of days or weeks or months.
Absolutely. And we know how important it is. For example, we clearly can analyze the breakthrough that was, for example, having a tool like WordPress, and kind of what you are doing right
Yes.
now, like creating this modularity and
Exactly
giving the
right.
people the possibility to create, having good tech already written, and just take that as a base and just, it's like, take down and out of the equation the technical complexity and just apply to the real life solution you want as fast as possible. And I want to talk about that. But first of all, to give a little bit of context to the people that is listening to us, I want to take the opportunity of asking you the insights you have been getting talking with amazing people, because you have been, you as a communicator and with your all expertise, because even you recently start creating in the web3 space, kind of, it's not the same the native web3 creators, like the young guy 18 years old that
Yes.
have never been coding, learn a little bit of Solidity, deploy a little bit of things, for some reason got the marketing side right, and they blow, and from like overnight they are kind of a success. But you have been in this space for a long time, like creating things. You have been in the technical space, and when someone like you with your profile come to the web3 space, you do it with another type of wisdom, you do it with another
Yes.
approach. So the way you understand everything that is happening in the web3 space, in addition with your whole experience talking with all of these creators, is something I will really want to dive into. And I would like to know your insights. What are like the most relevant ideas have changed your perception about something in the last few months, for example?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So I'll share with you like the first time. So I was creating minimum viable products, like just with friends, and just in short time. In even in 2017, we created a mining website to mine Monero, which is another coin, like a privacy coin, just from your browser using your CPU instead of your GPU. So anyone can go to a website, open a browser, start mining in the background. Of the economics of it didn't make sense because it was taking too much processing power, so we stopped it. But I was building MVPs in this, and I was playing with CryptoKitties in 2017, or early 2018. That's like the first version of NFTs that you can say. So I have been in this space for ages and ages, and I have seen, and at times I have gotten it wrong, and at times I have gotten it right. I was trying to set up a miner in 2012, just like I was using Google AdWords in 2004, 18 years ago, when no one knew what Google even had an ad product. Back then people just used it as a search engine, not as a marketing platform. Which is now widely accepted, but 18 years ago it was not a thing. There were like 5 other search engines as well on top of that. And so anyway, long story aside, I haven't used my knowledge for trading, and I'm still a firm believer that trading will come and go, and it comes in cycles, as everyone has seen. And then everyone thinks that they are a genius when it's the bull market. Whether it is stocks or crypto, everyone starts to think that they know it all, and they're looking at the candles, and they're looking at the charts, and and all that. And that's all fine. If it works for you, it works for you. But the bull market stays for maybe 9 months, 11 months, something like that. And the bear market or the crypto winter lasts for 2 to 3 years. Of course, the winter is getting shorter. But if you are a developer in this space, it doesn't matter. You you just build, create solutions that have utility. You are not really focused on the token price. And that's why I feel like 90% of the projects in this space don't need a token, like that have a
That's a
token, because otherwise you would be just at the mercy of the markets going up and down. And then even if you are building some good tech or a good game or whatever you are building, just because the market is down and as a result your token price is down, people will think you have a bad project and everyone will leave.
mm,
So it can in fact even hurt your project if you have a token price and you're floating it on the market, and you are at the mercy of the ups and downs of the market. So
mm,
so that is anyone thinking of starting a new project should really really look into it, that do they even need a token to make their project successful. Now, okay, yes, you want to encourage participation in your project, you want to encourage engagement in your project, then there are lots of other ways to do that without doing a like a direct token itself. And
For
I'll
example,
be happy to talk with, because that's a completely massive topic, but I'll be happy to
but what
talk
do you
about that, how
recommend?
you would do that.
Couple of gems you can drop, for example, because that's a game changer. Obviously, when someone, usually by default, when they say, oh, I'm
Yes.
creating this DAO, I'm creating this whatever, they have into the equation a new token. But that's true,
Yes.
and especially if your asset is a low liquidity one, and also
Yes.
understanding the frame and the mindset that usually people make a connection that is a false, is a fallacy between the price and
Yes.
the value. So you are basically in a situation where most likely you will be losing, especially
Yeah.
if you are in this type of market or in the cycle, in the stage of the cycle we are right now. So what do you recommend? Because that's very
Yeah.
interesting.
So like, okay, so why do you want to create a token? The key reason is that in most cases it is for funding.
Mm,
So they people want to create a token because they want to raise money. That's generally it comes down to, because it is a more decentralized way of raising funding. But then that token, instead of floating it on the market, it could be a different way. Like, you own a part of the DAO with that token. You cannot float it and run out of liquidity. Or you could do it in a way. I mean, once again, this goes into tokenomics, and this is a case by case basis. So this solution might not apply to everyone, but then that token is only for the governance, not for anything else, not for trading or anything. So that token just maybe gives you voting rights in the say of where the company should move, what's the next products it should make, who the leadership of that company should be. So there could be those sort of features built into it. And once again, if you need any such things to build, you can just go to our platform and you can create a voting token or a DAO or something like that in a matter of minutes. So it's not that complex, and deployed on testnet, not even on the mainnet. So you can just test it out for free, completely free, without paying anyone anything, because this is all decentralized. It's not like, even if you pay gas fees, you pay to Ethereum, but if you deploy in testnet, you don't even pay that. So yeah, once again, like, okay, there are lots of different ways to reward people for engagement, so you can reward them in the Web2 way of points and stuff. And once you know how your economy works, later on you can convert those points into tokens and airdrop, or you can airdrop NFTs, or you could create some unique leaderboards, and then people
mm,
in those leaderboards gets NFTs relevant to their ranking, instead of just rewarding everyone on token, which are floated and are liquid on the market, and then people can just take that liquidity out and your project can die, or you could
great.
lose. So there's just some ideas for people to think about. I'm not saying that do this way or do the other way, because I don't know about what their case or their product is about.
Thank you so much for dropping those gems. I think that is extremely insightful for the people listening to us and maybe thinking about creating something in the Web3 space. And I want to ask you about the bigger picture. What is happening in the
Sure.
world right now? Because we are in a transition. I'm not talking just about the Web3 space or when it comes to regulations that we are, but we are also going through in the macroeconomic, geopolitical spectrum. We are going through very moving periods of time. So I would like, first of all, it's like a
Yes.
two-layer question. I would
Sure.
like to know your understanding of how the macro picture is moving and how you believe that is connected with the Web3 space and what you believe will happen in the Web3 space as a consequence.
Ooh, that is such big that is a massive question. And first, like, to answer this question, I'd like to talk about centralization and decentralization. People think that when they look at, just like world map or something, and they see something like China, and they think that it is highly, highly centralized and government controls. But that's just one form of centralization. There is another form of centralization where the power is all concentrated in the hands of few corporates or banks or businesses. So, so privatization does not mean decentralization. That could also mean centralization. Now,
Absolutely.
there are some places where two centralized entities are clashing, and that's causing a delicate situation, like somewhere like US, where the private industry, some of them are so big that they have enough lobbying power that in a way they are more powerful than the government. So it's also just a form of centralization. So
Absolutely.
first time we are going to see, or first time, this is like an experiment done at a global scale, that we are going to see a decentralized model happening in front of our eyes. It's like, yes, people might say that, oh, democracy, people vote, but even after people vote on the laws, then there is a central authority that makes sure that those laws are then followed, and that central authority still has a massive say. So there's always been centralization of power. This would be the first time we will get to see how decentralization works, or how it doesn't work, or where are the pitfalls for it. In this new paradigm, the centralized authority is maths and code, which governs what happens. So code has the power, and so if you want to follow the power, then learn what the developers are doing. And even if if you want, like the alpha, you want to call, going back to the markets, you want to learn where to invest. Even though I haven't used this knowledge myself, it's like 2.5 years ago. You should look at, like, if it was 2.5 years ago, you should look at where the developers are moving to, which ecosystem is investing in developers. So at that time, Solana was the new one investing in developers, and then their price did go because people did build.
Mm.
They did have the VC funding to invest into developers at that time. Right now, if you look at the EVM ecosystem or Ethereum based,
Mm.
there's tens of thousands of developers building in that space. That I don't see the same case happening on Bitcoin.
Mm.
So the solutions that we will use in future will come from that ecosystem. So yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting to see how this decentralization works. I'll tell you one place, or some places, where it has worked beautifully and created an amazingly useful product for whole humanity, for the whole globe. And some of those examples, one of that is something called Wikipedia that we all
Mm.
use. So it's like user generated. There is no central authority, like a corporation like Google or Meta or AWS or Twitter, or anyone controlling that. It is people putting up, and it is people moderated. There is no one authority, like, it's not like you make fun of the owner, Zuckerberg or Elon, and then the owner gets upset and blocks you off the platform. There is no centralization in that way. It's the people upload it and people correct it. So if everyone chose to only put wrong information on Wikipedia, it will all be wrong. But somehow people don't. So that is a good example. The other example is code, and which is open source. And that is, the open source ecosystem is so much bigger. And back in the 90s, this is once again, my software background comes in 90s and early 2000s. Microsoft was trying to fight the open source and trying to think that, okay, we are paying developers big money and we'll have the best. But no, that's not the case. Open source always won, because there were 10 times, 100 times more developers building on open source. And that's why I do see there's a good future for blockchain, because all the data is like a public blockchain. And that's why even in 2017 18, when I was in San Francisco and I was meeting all these people from banks and stuff, they're all looking at private blockchain at that time. Just like right now, everyone's looking at CDBCs, like the central bank digital currencies.
Oh man, I
But
will ask
they
you
were,
about it.
yeah. So at that time, they were all looking at private blockchains, and none of them succeeded because they couldn't grasp the idea of that this is not private, this is all about public. So that's why I use a blockchain, because you have the public ledger, anyone can see who moved money to who. So that's a part of the feature. It's not a bug, it's a feature, and it is permissionless. So then you can go to, ETHScan or Etherscan or something like that, get all the data, and then build on top of that, build analytics or whatever you want to build on top of it. Instead of the web 2 way where a software has to provide API and then you can access those APIs. So if that software decides to stop those APIs or only give you access to some things, you only have access to that. But in a public ledger, that's not the case. So open source is definitely more supported and more people are building on it. So that's why on the software side, I have high hopes for the open source decentralized model of building things and stuff. So that's the decentralization centralization case. And right now, this is the same mistake that the banks are making, and that's why none of the banks in the world have come up with anything like Ethereum or Polygon or anything like that, because they all want to build their own unique small niche CDBC, like centralized digital bank currency. And the number of developers you have building on something like Ethereum or Polygon, which are all EVM based, is always going to exceed than one country's central bank's digital currency and only their software developers in their company building something on top of that. So the solutions that will be out there in the market that are being built with developers and open source and stuff will always exceed. And so the innovation will come much faster from the public blockchain, from public blockchains and stuff, rather than, as in, like, what I mean by is Ethereum and all these ones that are accessible by anyone anywhere in the world, than on the CDBCs. So a lot of banks have always protected the data, because they always, as in, like, they thought that when you bank with a bank like HSBC or anyone, you have a history of your transaction history, and they think that is their wealth, so they need to protect it. Whereas blockchain turns this upside down. It's like it's public information, so do whatever you want. You can see that, you cannot, it's immutable, you cannot change that, but you can add the next transaction because it's on a blockchain instead of a database that can be edited. So it's immutable, it's permissionless, and it's kind of, in a way, permanent and public. So yeah, so it gives the transparency and stuff. So those are the features. So I do feel like all these CDBCs are making mistakes, and it's not like they haven't known about Bitcoin. They've known about it for last 10, 11 years, 12 years. They've been looking into it, and still, when you look at the coin market cap, you don't see anything there from any central bank. And when it will come to software that we will use on our phones and our things and digital wallets and stuff, I highly doubt it any CDBC would be able to replicate it, because they're just going to be so slow, and people build so fast in this space. And when you have 100,000 building versus 1,000 of your employees building, the creativity, and where they have no rules, the 100,000 people building on it and the 1,000 in your office space building on it, they have such strict guidelines, bureaucracy, rules. You're not going to come up with innovation like the outside, the open world. So that's my point of view.
Awesome. Thank you so much for taking this very complex point and centralization versus decentralization, and giving as an example Wikipedia as a successful result of applying the decentralization model. And in that regard, personally, I find amazing and as astounding how powerful it is the first page of the Bitcoin white paper. Just reading
Yes.
the first few words: a decentralized peer-to-peer network that allow us to transact with any third party. And that is the
Yes.
kind of the philosophical proposition, not the technical, the philosophical. And sometimes many other projects further down the line It's like they try to compromise that philosophical base, and how Bitcoin has been there since the beginning and is very robust from the beginning. I don't know who the hell is Satoshi, but certainly
Yeah.
is a genius, because from the beginning, the idea, the philosophical idea, the philosophical construct has been
Yes.
powerful. And I want to ask you, because you brought this point, centralization versus decentralization. We both know, every single person listening to this know, decentralization is the way moving forward because give us the power. But we know right now the structure we live in tend to centralization. As you said,
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
not just decentralization of the government, but decentralization of the markets. So it's
Yes.
different type of centralizations, but kind of in the whole world, we live in some sort of centralization.
Centralization. Yes.
So do you believe, this is my question, that was kind of a
Yes.
way to frame the question. Do you believe the guy who are in the high hierarchy of the actual right now, the centralization systems that run the world right now, do they will do something to try to destroy the decentralization of the blockchain technology? For example,
I think it's
Mika.
more likely that they want to cash in on the hype. It's more
Okay,
likely that they'll do try and cash in on the hype. That's about
okay.
it, rather than stop, because it's at a global level. So it's
Mm.
not like you can go and stop Bitcoin in one market. The miners just move to the next and stuff. Um so it's like having 192 countries collaborate and do something together. It's very hard. I'm sure we saw over COVID, every country had their own response and their own way of doing things. So it's like try getting all the 190 plus countries in the world to agree on something, and we'll see how that goes.
That's true, 100%, and
Because the
especially.
thing is, at the same time, you have to realize that there are countries who see it as a first mover advantage and who want to have supremacy when it comes to that tech.
Mm.
So whether it's Switzerland or Malta or Dubai, or like, there's lots. They all have their own version. Like I think what's there, like Switzerland in Zug, they call them the Crypto Valley or something like that. I forgot exactly what they call, but everyone has their own version where they have like crypto friendly space and an ecosystem where you can go and create things, and they'll give you a financial license and they'll do all those sort of things, because they want to be the first mover advantage, because they saw that they lost out to Silicon Valley because it was 80 years in the making. And how many companies are born out of Silicon Valley? Even to this day, 70% of all the unicorns funded are from one, like a very small geographic location out of the whole world. The planet is so big, 100, and I mean, not let alone US. Most of the startups born in US are still funded from that one very small geographic location. So everyone wants to create, like Silicon Valley has created how many companies, and how many jobs those companies created just in US. Trillions of dollars of wealth got created because of tech. It's like, look at the top 20 companies in the world, they're mostly all tech. Probably if they are in tech, they had a connection there. So everyone wants to create that trillions of dollars of wealth for the next
Mhm.
generations, and have that supremacy. So yeah, so every country is looking at it in some way or form. And when you do close down and lock down on this, you are saying bye to that, pretty much, that whole ecosystem. All those entrepreneurs will just move to the next place, whether it is Bali or Thailand or Colombia or
Amazing.
wherever. They all these places have massive ecosystems, or India, or they'll just move there and build
Dubai.
solutions there and build startups there. So I don't see that happening, and that's why the other side of that is they want to cash in on that. So whether it is through
Mm.
the public centralization, which is like, CDBCs, or private centralizations, each bank trying to start their own, not a central bank, but just a digital bank currency, or having some sort of a solution. So just cash in on that, pretty much. That's what will happen, and that's what's happening.
Awesome.
And that's why there will be rug pulls, and there will be phishing scams, and there'll be all sorts of scams, and there'll be shitty projects, and there'll be all sorts of things.
That's an amazing point. So you believe they will not be able to destroy it, because even if they try, what will happen is that the talent will move geographically to a place
Yes.
where the political environment is
Yeah.
like with the best configuration for them to create it anyway.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, pretty
very
much. And there will always be, just like, if your country has higher tax, you move to one that has low, whether it is the Bahamas or the Ireland, which a lot of the tech firms are now registered in Ireland, and they have massive offices there, and they employ tens of thousands of people or hundreds of thousands of people. So everyone from Google to Facebook to Microsoft, everyone has massive offices in Ireland. In fact, so much, even Twitter, that there people cannot find houses to live in Dublin because there's been such a massive growth in the
wow.
whole tech ecosystem there. So because they give tax-free things, and like Portugal is the latest one, they'll give you 5 or 10 years of tax-free status to go and live there as a digital nomad and stuff, and build things there. So there'll always be a small country somewhere who wants to have that technical superiority and make money that way, that will provide a shelter for all these entrepreneurs.
That's an amazing point of view. Thank you so much
So
for
yeah.
dropping all these gems. My goodness, I really appreciate it, because sounds so obvious when you say them, but a few seconds ago are not obvious.
Yeah.
Just before you
So,
say
I
them.
mean, we had this in real life, like China had the most processing
Mm,
power when it came to, because of cheap electricity, because they have massive dams and stuff, and they have a lot of renewable energy as well. So they had the cheapest electricity in the world, and that's why most of the Bitcoin was mined and there. And then everyone feared that, okay, China, it's centralized in China, Bitcoin. But that's not what happened when China stopped and kicked out all the miners. All those mining machines got sold off to Thailand and Kazakhstan and all these other places, and people just sold those machines, and all these slowly miners moved out, and a lot of people still hold Bitcoin because they hold it in their cold storage, or in their they don't have to interact with it every day. Bitcoin is not, people are not using it to make transactions every day. They're not using it to buying fruit and stuff. They'll use other chains for that. The one app, the killer app in this that people are missing out, or not missing out, they know about it, is stable coins. And that has completely changed the game. Now people want to be paid in stable coins, because with Bitcoin or Ethereum, you don't know, or any other chains, you don't know exactly what you're going to get paid. By the time the transaction happens, the value could be 10% lower, higher. And it's very hard to do business when the price is fluctuating so much, because say you are selling your product, and at that time your currency, whatever you're using, is really high. So you get like only $5, and then by the time you go to pay your suppliers, the currency has become low, so you have to pay them $15. So suddenly you're made. So fluctuations kill business, pretty much. They kill economies. So you don't want hyperinflation and hyperdeflation in your currency.
mm.
Deflation is as bad as inflation. It's like Japan is fighting deflation for the last 30 years. They've had 0% interest rates, because they've had so much deflation. They don't care about inflation. Their worry is deflation. So that's why Bitcoin will not be used for transactions. Ethereum also, I don't see them being used as much for transacting value. They are great for store of value, and which is a very big use case. You can take it from one country to another, in a USB stick, or just in your memory. You don't even need that. You cannot do that with gold bars. You cannot do that
Absolutely.
with anything. So if I mean, every year about 15,000 high net worth individuals or millionaires move out of China to go and live. Same from Russia, same from a lot of other countries. They move, money moves, and they are not taking gold bars. Let me just tell you that, in
Absolutely.
their bag. Yeah, so it has a big use case, a store of value. But when it comes to transfer of value, which most people need, USDC and things like that are changing the game, like any stable coin. So that's why if you look at it, in the top 10 of the currencies, at least 4 of them are stable coins now, by market cap. And I don't see them going anywhere, um, because they provide such a convenience. So you can charge people in a stable coin, and you know the price is going to be stable, which helps you price your services, which helps you pay suppliers or pay your contractors and everyone.
That's an amazing feedback. That is an amazing insight. I really appreciate it. And I think the case of the stable coin are that case is directly connected with regulation and also
Yes.
CDBCs, kind of like an immune response of the status quo against decentralization. And there are in the crypto space also is happening, for example, MetaMask, well, the company that runs MetaMask now saying that they will be tracking the IPs. For example,
Yes.
you have some regulation proposals that want you to do KYC procedures to
Yes.
interact with the blockchain technology that basically go against the very fundamental of the value proposition of the whole space. So I want to ask you, what do you think about the CDBCs, and in the big context, how do you think we will move forward with these CDBC stuff on
Yeah,
regulation?
so so as I was saying earlier, there is still a lot of financial products that are yet to be unlocked, and yet we are yet to use them. Just like, if you ask someone in 2002 or 1998 that, what do you think of online, and they would think that, oh, everything that's to be um, to be developed is developed, all the software is there. It's like, how, like, Word is already works, PowerPoint works, Excel works, Microsoft Access works. It's like all these things work. Like, what other software will we create? But how many SaaS products are there in the world? Millions. Pretty much. So just like that, there's going to be millions of financial products that we don't know yet that we have use for them. But as time goes on with Ethereum, and with how money is now programmable, and with a lot of other L2 chains as well, and faster than the traditional ecosystem, and more environmentally kinder than the traditional ecosystem. Already they are getting so much more efficient when it comes to gas and stuff. And this is just the first step of Ethereum. This is just the merge. There's 5 steps, the purge, the splurge, the verge, and so on. By the end of it, it's 100,000 TPS, and that's just layer 1. By the time you factor in layer 2, ZK rollups, optimism rollups, all these sort of things, it is way, way, way more efficient when it comes to speed and energy consumption than the um, traditional ecosystem or traditional web 2 way of doing things and transacting. So I do feel like there will still be a lot more innovation that will come from public blockchains and other public ventures which are open source compared to CDBC. So CDBCs will always lag behind in that. And as once again, countries will want an upper hand when it comes to financial innovation. So a lot of countries will allow, and because some are allowing, the rest have to allow, or their citizens will be poorer because they have less productivity. It's like, say whatever you want to about London or New York or Hong Kong or Singapore. They have allowed financial innovation. Some is good, some is bad, but that has allowed them to build cities that are massively rich and centers of the financial world. Their GDP per capita is definitely a lot more than somewhere like Mogadishu, where there is a lot less financial innovation, or somewhere else remote in the world which has no financial innovation. So financial innovation has allowed us to build that. And when it is on steroids, especially with public block building on public blockchains and stuff, and hundreds of thousands of people building on that, it will be very hard for CDBCs to compete.
Awesome. Wow, that is an incredible insight. So the
Mhm.
existence or trying the system to impose the CDBCs will decrease the financial innovation ratio, and for that reason they will lose the technical advantage.
Yeah,
Maybe.
yeah, because the solutions are even being built right now. It's like
Mm,
how many developers are using Solidity and building and creating solutions on EVM, like Ethereum virtual machine, whether it's on Polygon or Ethereum or like 20 other chains, and how many are building on CDBCs. I don't know anyone building on CDBCs right now. I know so many other people building on EVM ecosystems right now. So that just tells me that, this is where I see innovation coming from. And not every, but a lot of governments still want to pursue innovation or want to promote entrepreneurship. So that's why they all have,
mhm.
like, now they have all have startup benefits and tax breaks and things like that. And nearly every country has some sort of a program to encourage entrepreneurship and startups in their country. Just like that, a lot more countries will have that for blockchain as well.
Awesome. Last but not least, what would you recommend for someone that is getting into the Web3 space and you that have a broader understanding of everything that is happening, getting in contact with a lot of creators? How would you recommend moving forward? Someone that is getting into the space, how that person can get the know-how to understand like the overall picture? What would you recommend to that person being in the
Yeah, so
space?
I would say don't do two things and I'll share the other side as well. First of all is don't go into the speculation game
Okay.
because it is speculation, it is just gambling. So stay away from gambling. Um, and the second thing is join a community of builders and learners. So learn everything about you can about, and once again it depends on what your interests are. So this space is going to, just like AI, this space is going to touch nearly every other space. So if you are a creative, then look at, how do creatives use it? How can this tech amplify your art or your creativity? If you are into people marketing, go into community building, go into those sort of things and join a community. Or if you are more technical, then join a community. If you would like to learn, there are lots of places where you can learn for free on how to develop on Web3. Just do Google search and you'll find so many platforms teaching for free. And join their Discord, learn together with other friends, or make friends and learn together with other people. That's the Otherwise you everyone gives up, like, learning a foreign language, people give up after a while if you're not in that environment. So you have to be in that environment. So it's like learning Chinese while you're not in China, or learning Spanish while you're not in a Spanish speaking country. It's a lot harder. People give up on those things. Online courses have a completion rate of less than 10%. 90% people just drop out. They never complete online courses they buy. So do
Mm,
it with friends, join a community first, and then talk and see, learn what other people are learning, and create a project. That's the best way. Create a project together, come up with an idea, create a project, because you'll have to solve problems in that, and that will teach you the most you need to learn.
awesome. Thank you so much for joining this podcast, the one and only Sam Kamani. Thank you so much for dropping gems. Thank you so much for all your insights. And I just want to give you the opportunity to maybe give few words for our listeners and where people can find you, find your work. And yeah, we will be sharing those links in the description.
Thank you so much, Tony. So yeah, so you can find me on samkamani.com, or just search my name on Spotify or Apple Podcast, or any audio platform. It's Sam, S-A-M, Kamani, Kamani. I talk a lot on Web3 and I interview lots of other founders in this space. So thank you once again for your time.
My pleasure.